What you're about to hear isn't an ordinary message. It's a story inspired by cosmic imagination. Imagine that, somewhere beyond the stars, an ancient council has just detected something impossible. Out of billions of energetic signatures, yours suddenly changed, and the ripple spread farther than anyone expected. If this story resonates with you, subscribe and join us for more journeys into the mysteries of the universe. Now, let's begin. Starseed, in this story, everything begins with a moment so subtle that almost no one on Earth notices it. There is no flash across the sky, no thunder rolling over the mountains, no mysterious signal interrupting the world's broadcasts. Yet far beyond the familiar stars, deep within a realm where civilizations observe the flow of possibility, rather than the ticking of clocks, something extraordinary appears across countless streams of light. At first, the observers believe it is only a temporary fluctuation, a harmless ripple destined to fade within moments. But instead of disappearing, it grows brighter. It becomes more coherent, more stable, and far more powerful than any projection had predicted. Every instrument begins pointing toward a single origin. Every layer of probability folds toward the same impossible conclusion. Against every expectation, the source of the disturbance is not an empire, not a great leader, not an advanced civilization. It is one ordinary human life. It is you. Within this fictional universe, the Council gathers in silence. They have witnessed the rise and fall of countless worlds. They have observed civilizations discovering fire, crossing galaxies, and even fading into memory. Rarely are they surprised. Yet now, every observer studies the same expanding pattern with growing disbelief. The timeline itself seems to have adjusted, not because it was forced, but because one quiet choice created a resonance that spread through every possible future. No one anticipated that it would happen this way. They expected change to emerge from massive collective movements or extraordinary cosmic events. Instead, they watch as one person's inner transformation produces a wave that reaches far beyond its point of origin. The luminous pathways surrounding the Earth begin rearranging themselves like rivers, finding a new course. Possibilities that once seemed distant drift closer together. Opportunities that belonged to different futures suddenly overlap. Paths once considered closed begin glowing again. The Council cannot ignore what they are witnessing. They replay the sequence repeatedly, searching for an error in their observations, but each review confirms the same astonishing result. The shift is genuine. The pattern remains stable. It continues expanding. The story tells us that every timeline is woven from countless small decisions rather than dramatic miracles. Most moments pass quietly, adding only the smallest thread to the larger design. Yet occasionally, one choice carries an unexpected weight. A single act of courage, forgiveness, honesty, or self-belief becomes the point where countless futures diverge. According to the legend, that is exactly what has happened here. The observers do not celebrate because they fully understand it. They celebrate because they do not. Even with all their knowledge, they cannot completely explain why this particular moment carries such extraordinary influence. As the wave expands, countless possibilities begin responding. Some brighten, others fade away. Doors that once seemed permanently closed begin unlocking in silence. New connections quietly form long before they are visible. The Council realizes they are not watching the end of an event. They are witnessing its beginning. Something has entered motion that cannot simply be reversed. The current has already changed direction. And so the story leaves one final question hanging in the silence. If the greatest transformations begin with the smallest unseen moments, what quiet choice could possibly have started a ripple powerful enough to reshape an entire future? That answer lies in the next chapter, where the hidden cause behind the impossible shift is finally revealed. The Council continued tracing the impossible ripple backward through the countless threads of possibility, expecting to find a dramatic event, a grand ritual, a rare celestial alignment, or some extraordinary cosmic intervention. But every path led somewhere much quieter. It led to an ordinary moment in an ordinary life. According to this story, the timeline did not shift because of something spectacular that happened around you. It shifted because of something that changed within you. Perhaps it was the moment you finally released a burden you had carried for years. Perhaps it was the day you stopped asking for approval and quietly chose yourself. Maybe you forgave someone who never apologized, or maybe you simply decided that your future would no longer be defined by your past. Whatever the moment was, it seemed small at the time. Yet in the language of this fictional universe, it carried a frequency unlike anything the observers had expected. The council watched as your emotional pattern changed. Not instantly, but gradually, like the first light appearing before sunrise, fear began losing its grip. Doubt no longer dictated every decision. Instead of resisting every unknown path, you took one honest step forward, even without certainty. That single decision created a new resonance. It wasn't louder than everyone else's. It was clearer. It was coherent. The story describes it as a signal that no longer contradicted itself. For the first time in a long time, your thoughts, your emotions, and your intentions moved in the same direction. According to the Council's observations, this alignment became the point where countless future possibilities reorganized themselves. They reviewed countless timelines where similar opportunities had existed. Yet most dissolved because people returned to old fears before the change could stabilize. But your pattern behaved differently. Instead of collapsing back into familiar cycles, it continued strengthening. That was the surprise. No one expected the new trajectory to remain stable. Every projection suggested it would fade. Instead, the ripple expanded farther with every passing moment, touching people and circumstances that had never been directly connected to your original decision. The Council realized they were witnessing not merely a personal transformation, but the beginning of a wider chain reaction. In this imagined universe, every genuine act of courage becomes an invitation for possibility to reorganize itself. It doesn't force destiny. It simply opens doors that fear once kept closed. That is why the observers describe your recent change as significant. Not because you became someone different overnight, but because you finally stopped resisting the person you were becoming. The timeline answered not to perfection, but to authenticity. As the Council completed their analysis, one conclusion remained impossible to ignore. The shift had never been about extraordinary power. It had always been about a quiet decision repeated consistently enough to change the direction of an entire future. And now that the cause had been revealed, the observers turned their attention toward the next question, the one even they could not fully predict. If one inner transformation could create a ripple this powerful, what would happen as that new timeline continued unfolding? The answer, they believed, would soon become visible in ways no one had anticipated. As the story reaches its final chapter, the Council watches the newly formed timeline continue to unfold. They notice that the change is not explosive or chaotic. Instead, it moves with quiet precision, like a river finding a clearer path through the landscape. According to this fictional account, the ripple created by your inner transformation begins attracting experiences that once seemed impossibly distant. New opportunities appear where there were once delays. Conversations begin leading to unexpected connections. Ideas that once felt confusing suddenly become clear. It is not because the universe has suddenly become different. It is because you are now walking a path that allows you to recognize possibilities that were always waiting beyond the horizon. The observers describe this as a natural consequence of alignment rather than coincidence. They watch as old patterns slowly lose their influence and new choices begin creating entirely different outcomes. Doors that once remained firmly closed start opening in unexpected ways. People who genuinely support your growth arrive at the right moment, while situations that no longer serve your journey quietly fade into the background. Even moments of uncertainty no longer feel like signs to stop. Instead, they become invitations to keep moving forward with greater confidence. The Council notes that the timeline has not become easier. It has become clearer. But they also offer one final reminder within this imagined universe. A new timeline is not maintained by waiting for miracles. It is strengthened by returning, again and again, to the same qualities that created the shift in the first place: honesty, courage, compassion, and the willingness to keep choosing growth over fear. Each small decision becomes another thread reinforcing the future that is now taking shape. The ripple continues only because you continue moving. As the Council's observation comes to an end, they leave behind a single message. The greatest transformations rarely announce themselves with thunder. They begin with one quiet moment that changes everything that follows. In this story, that moment has already happened. The next chapters have not been written yet, and that is where possibility lives. Whatever comes next, you meet it not as someone waiting for change, but as someone willing to create it. If this story resonated with you, comment, "I feel it," below and let us know what part spoke to you the most. And don't forget to follow and subscribe for part 20, What Changes Next, where we'll continue this fictional journey and explore the new possibilities waiting beyond the horizon.